I'm not a huge fan of Jreg. I've said that before. I've gotten canceled for that before. That's life. What are you gonna do? I know a lot of people do like Jreg quite a bit, and I understand why. Because Jreg is actually pretty funny. Like Jreg, I actually think Jreg, like, very good comedic timing, funny, prescient. I like political jokes, blah blah. I like all that stuff. The reason why I don't like Jreg that much is because I don't think Jreg does very good satire. You've all seen the image on Twitter, right? Satire requires clarity of purpose, lest it be mistaken for that which it intends to critique, or something like that. I have no idea what Jreg's actual political positions are. I admit I find the actual running gag a little bit tired now, in my personal opinion. The whole, like, haha, I'm an unironic anti-centrist, I'm okay with every radical. This is literally just the political compass meme subreddit, except distilled down into YouTube. You know? And while some of those jokes can be pretty funny, I don't know how good a job they're doing at actually, like, satirizing the things he's trying to make fun of. Because he's making fun of, like, well, I mean, we can just watch.
You know what to do, compatriot. Let him have it. Please, no. I have a white wife and kids. So, how goes the progress? Excellent. The new concentration camps can fit so many fascists.
Get it? It's like if Antifa take over, they'll do the Holocaust, but it will be of fascists. That's the whole video.
What's gonna happen to us? Nothing's wrong, son. Just keep praying to Hitler. Hello! Oh, hello! You're just in time for some gluten-free bread. No. That's not why I'm here. Oh.
Yeah, you get, cause they're the not, get it? Cause the Antifa are the Nazis? Look.
It's actually as well as I thought it would. Get him! Get him! It's actually they, them. What? You said get him, but actually I preferred to be referred to as they, them. I didn't, I'm so sorry, I didn't. You can't kill me! I'm the democratically elected CEO of Antifa! No!
Now, the joke here is Antifa are the real fascists. Because that's the joke. There are a lot of people... The production value of this is unironically hilarious, though. This just... all the little green screen clones, like, shuffling around badly and stuff. Like, that's very funny to me, I will admit. But the Antifa are the real fascists thing, like, that's a thing that a lot of people unironically say, right? And the joke here is like, haha, what if Antifa really were the fascists? But it's not satire, because it doesn't actually critique the people who hold this belief. All it does is provide a jokingly facetious version of that belief. Proper satire would be challenging the preconceptions of the people who believe Antifa are the real fascists. But it's clearly a joke. I'm not saying it's not a joke. There's a difference between a joke and satire. As a joke, it's fine. It's obviously a jokey video. Does anyone think I'm accusing this video of being serious? But as satire, it doesn't really critique the people who believe that, because fascists can watch this video and just think, haha, that's funny. Yeah, that kind of would happen, I guess. Because it's not actually challenging them. What it's doing is, okay, wait, how do I illustrate this difference, okay? There's a big difference between, imagine you sit a fascist down and you make them watch two videos. And one of them is a video which critiques and makes fun of people who believe Antifa are the real fascists. And one of them is one which just shows Antifa being the real fascists, but in a jokey, facetious, hyperbolic way. Do you understand the difference there? It's the difference between parody and satire. It's the difference between critique and just making a joke. all of the problems that I have with JREG fundamentally boil down to like this basic distinction. It can be very difficult, I think, for people to recognize that just because you're making fun of an idea doesn't mean you're satirizing that idea or the people who agree with it. There's a very fundamental difference between those things. If you look over all the videos that he has, and by the way, some of JREG's videos I think are sincerely great. Does everyone remember that suicide video? The video he did on suicide a while back. Does everyone remember that? That was JREG, right? Where he talked about like suicidality and his depression and stuff. I think that was, I don't think that was satire. How far back do I have to go to find that one? Whatever the case is, like some while back, he did a video on like suicidality and depression. And it came from a pretty sincere place in my humble opinion. Oh yeah, here we go. I want Ted to die. See, there you go, that one. If you ever want to, feel like shit, he literally ended it with, it's just a meme, I'm not actually depressed. Yeah, but that would, in my mind, would actually be satire. So if you do a 30-minute video where you sincerely and fairly in detail depict your suicidality or discuss your feelings, and then at the end you're just like, lol, it's all a joke, haha. What you're doing at the end is satirizing the idea of people who hide behind memes to avoid actually discussing their depression. Nobody could watch that video and then watch the end of it and think, oh, he really was joking. They would think at the end, this is a critique of people who try to make jokes to hide the depression. That's the difference between satire and just making a joke. Not all of his videos are supposed to be satire, though. Oh, okay. Then if they're not trying to be satire, then I would say they're actually problematic, because a lot of these videos seem to attract a fuck ton of fascists who unironically agree with him. His community is fucking full of Nazbols, fascists, tankies, and people from the far-right political spectrum. I know for a fact that his Discord is literally packed to the brim with Nazis. So if we're going to avoid the satire label, then I'll just criticize him for fostering a far-right community, because he's more interested in playing out the exact same ad hoc fucking joke than he is in maintaining a community that actually has decent values. So maybe we should stick to satire being the intended purpose of his commentary. Maybe that would be preferable. The ban porn video, his server is literally divided evenly across a political compass. Hey, my dude, I'm gonna give you a hot tip, okay? Are you ready for it? If your server is 25% Nazis, it's a Nazi server. That's my hot tip right there. That's a little secret I can throw your way. If you've ever been to the political compass memes server or subreddit, if you've been to that subreddit, guys, this place is literally full of Nazis. It's literally the JREG bit, except in a subreddit. Everyone chooses their quadrant. They go lib left, off right, or lib right. They go, see, look, everyone's got their little fucking tag. The mods have their tags too, and everyone makes fun of each other, except a startling number of jokes here are literally just far right or neo-Nazi propaganda. A little bit weird. See, that ultimately is the issue. Any community which tries to pull an equal hand to the values of the far left and the far right is only doing a service to the far right. If you put two people on an axis, full egalitarianism and literal neo-Nazism death camps, and you say these are both extremes, and extremes are funny, then what you're inherently doing is propping the right up. The left doesn't need to be propped up by some kind of weird equivalent exchange like satire line. The right needs it, because the right is the one that's trying to be taken seriously. This subreddit is full of people who call themselves lib left or off left or whatever, who then end up going on Nazi takes. I check this subreddit all the time. I don't really have like any prepared material for you guys. I don't have like a screenshot compilation, nor do I think that would be particularly effective evidence if I wanted to have one. But if you spend any time in this subreddit, you'll find a surprising number of people who are unironically just adopting far-right positions, regardless of whatever axes they identify with. The ultimate reason for that is this: because the far left doesn't meaningfully challenge the far right on an existential level, whereas the far right does on the far left. Why would actual progressive people want to participate in a subreddit that elevates and lauds far-right positions? Do you really think that's going to play out in their favor? If we're trying to balance out the interests of people who want egalitarianism for everyone and people who think that queers are literally subhuman, do you really think that subreddit is going to maintain an equal balance between these communities, or will the far right eventually take over because it's going to be inhospitable to people who aren't far right? This has happened so many times. This happened in Pull. This happened in the Gamers Rise Up subreddit. This happened in Kotaku in Action. Every single time you allow a contingent of far-right people to be given an equal voice in a community, the Donald too, exactly. Yeah, things go further and further. Top post of that week in that sub is literally the Jewish question. Let's take a peek. Top post, birthday message to Hitler, you're dead and the Jews run the world, haha. But doesn't that prove he was right? Let's see what the comments turn to look like. Let's see if we go down a little farther. Boy Gottfried went full mask off. Did you know? Oh, despite... You can get that 40%, we'll deal with the rest, it's off unity time. Here, I don't understand what Nazism, why only hate the Jews? We don't hate, this is 143 points by the way. We don't hate Jews, we see that homogenous nations of people are better suited to live amongst themselves than they are suited to living in multicultural societies. This is literally just neo-Nazi propaganda being upvoted. Like, literally what I want, an ethno-state. Notice how the rebuttal from 6 days ago, so this is not a new conversation, gets 9 points, whereas the Nazi explaining how we need homogenous society gets 143 points. That's kind of interesting. Is it actually true in response to a question about Jews being overrepresented? Yes, they're also like 25% of Harvard admissions, which means they're overrepresented by 13 times because they're slightly higher IQ. It wouldn't make sense that Jews would be overrepresented like this unless there was a bias in admissions. Fully upvoted, literally neo-Nazi propaganda. Jews having a higher IQ is a lie in itself. They just threw away all the lower IQ Jews and formed a new group and only their brains count. That's not, I don't know what the fuck that's in reference to. I've never heard that one before. It's probably not true. Agreed, but again, like this community is literally fucking full of Nazis. If you want to go through, like pretty much every single thread in Political Compass memes has like some sincere like Nazi discussion going on. This is not an equal community. There isn't any fair-mindedness here. If your goal is to satirize centrism by propping up all the four axes as some kind of equal, like colorful, it's a wonderful world, or it's a small world after all, like satire brigade against like the center or something like that, all you're doing is giving unnecessary credence to people with genocidal ideologies. One of the greatest myths, actually it's funny because this makes Jreg the ultimate centrist. The ultimate centrist. The greatest myth of centrism is that there is an equivalence between the far left and the far right. That's the perspective of a centrist. Centrists are the one who thinks there's any ideological parallel, juxtaposition, or balance between people who want anarchy and people who want a Nazi death camp system. And by propping these up as equivalent axes, all opposite from the center, you're engaging in the exact same fallacious thinking unironic centrists do. People with any actual, real, principled political understanding of the differences in ideologies recognize that whatever juxtaposition there is between people of different beliefs, there is none between the far left and the far right, because the far right wants genocide and the far left wants egalitarianism. Now, mind you, I'm not making the argument that Jreg is inherently a bad person or a centrist, but Jreg's approach to comedy attracts an enormous number of Nazis, fascists, and other far-right people to his community, and I think that's a legitimate issue for which he should be fairly criticized. A lot of people on the left want to pretend that he's some sort of master satirist that's bringing joy and levity to all political discussion, but that's not true. In my humble opinion, he is, while a fairly funny guy, engaging in the same basic, like, fallacious, centrist, ad hoc juxtaposition of far left and far right ideologies, engaging in the same basic like platforming of far right people that we would criticize from any other people. You know, like we wouldn't accept this from any other group of people. I think Jreg is similar to South Park in that he doesn't really care. If that's the position that people here want to take, that's fine. But there are a lot of lefties who seem to think that this guy is some kind of like crypto leftist, big brain, progressive, whatever. Someone posted CP in Jreg's Discord server. I don't really care unless it was like Jreg himself. Like whatever, as long as that person was banned.
When you try to talk about the negative effects of porn in the porn industry, people will look at you like you're bringing up black crime statistics. It's one of those things so far outside of the Overton window that just bringing the topic up is enough to make most people shun you. As far as neoliberal society is concerned, the porn debate is a shut case. It's healthy, it's normal, and if you don't agree with it, you're a prude. Pornography is not normal. It is just something that has been deeply normalized. In normalizing pornography, we've taken the idea that maybe children shouldn't have access to porn, and we've pushed that right outside the Overton window. Maybe we
This video is literally 7.5 minutes of Swerf talking points with very minimal just memeing shit in there. You know what the big meme that Jreg does? It's that he does all this, but he also has an OnlyFans page. See? Get it? That's the joke. He delivered 8 minutes of Swerf propaganda, but then the joke is that he also has an OnlyFans page. Get it? Do you get it? It's funny because he propped up a bunch of right-leaning ideologies and right-leaning talking points, and then he avoided having to accept criticism for those points because he tacitly critiqued them themselves by doing something that doesn't actually critique it. It's funny. Hey man, I just had a conversation with Dankula, dude. It's kind of the same. He'll do a bunch of far-right shit or he'll make a bunch of far-right talking points, but it's all a meme. And then if you're like, hey, what do you actually think? And it'd be like, oh, well, I also, how can I hate trans people when trans people suck such good dick? Like, that's basically what we're talking about here, you know? I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just not very impressed.
We should make it more difficult for children to have access to about it. I'm not going to try to change that. What I am going to
talking about the iDubbbz drama, something that literally hundreds of thousands of people are invested in, that will probably pull people to his channel who will watch him and unironically agree with his anti-sex work talking points.
Do is analyze what people are angry about, and it's not iDubbbz. Nobody is that invested with iDubbbz's personal relationship. What they're really mad at is the broader social structure that allowed them to witness a man get cucked in front of their very eyes. People mad at iDubbbz were actually mad at a culture that allows...
See, it's a joke because he says things that are funny, but the funny things he's saying are literally identical to what other people say unironically, because the far right is so fucking stupid that satirizing them is literally just repeating their points ad verbatim.
For the emasculation of the man, the commodification of the woman, and the degeneracy of the West. For the most part, I don't think people were mad.
See, it was a joke. See, it was the rule of threes. You put the degeneracy of the West as the third point there to indicate that you're making a joke about the relative severity of that last point, except a lot of people who are watching are going to unironically agree with it because you're not meaningfully challenging those ideas.
Mad at iDubbbz. I think they were mad at the rampant neoliberal commodification of sex and sexuality. They're mad at the world. As a Christian, I always found it weird that masturbation was a mortal sin within the church. The reason I found that weird was because sex was so normalized for me, even at a young age, that it was strange that such a normal part of our culture was apparently sending people to burn in hell for all of eternity. Only now that I'm a bit older do I see the spiritual reason why someone might want to avoid temptation. Sexual energy, sexual drive...
Get it? It's a joke because he's not actually religious, but he's saying that religiosity would prevent one from wanting to engage in sex before marriage or whatever, even though there are people who unironically believe that. Get it? It's funny because the points are stupid, but the people who believe those points are also stupid, so by reinforcing them, you're basically like driving people to the same outcomes.
To be sex work.
Oh wait, is he actually religious? Oh wait, I didn't actually know. I assumed that he wasn't. I thought I'd heard. If he's actually religious, that doesn't make it any better though.
But I've also decided to bring the fight to them. That's why I've started an OnlyFans.
Here's where we get the jokes.
Account of my own, where I will decry the evils of the porn industry. Lewd.
Sex work is not real work. This is easy. Ooh.
Oh, he's actually kind of jacked. Wait, hold on. Hey, okay, respect's given. God damn, dude. Holy shit, is that an 8-pack? Wow. All right. Oh no, he's hot.
Easy. Ooh.
Because of my bio calling out OnlyFans for their bullshit, they tried to deny me time and time again. But eventually I broke through, and now I'm ready to give my message to the people that need to hear it the most.
Porn-addicted young men are less likely to be satisfied during sexual intercourse and are much more likely to develop erectile dysfunction.
Now, I want to pause on this because I think this is the most prescient possible moment for us to intrude on. Okay? This is funny to me. This is funny to me. I actually do find this funny. My issue is the first 5 or so minutes of this video, I'm pulling the camera to me so you guys don't get distracted. The first 5 minutes of this video is just right-wing talking points. Unchallenged, presented fairly uncritically, with a comparable degree of competence and severity that I've seen being put out by any other people. But at the end, he does a funny little joke. He does like, haha, I'm fighting degeneracy with degeneracy. The issue is, I've seen this joke done before. In fact, I've done a video on a person who made this joke before. You guys may remember the man, the myth, the legend himself, Catboy Cammy. Remember Catboy Cammy? Catboy Cammy is a neo-Nazi. Seriously, Catboy Cammy is a neo-Nazi. It's not hidden. And Catboy Cammy dresses up in a little pink skirt in fetish gear with little catboy things, and he deep throats horsecock, and it's all a joke. That's what he says. The joke of Catboy Cammy is that he's anti-degeneracy, but he facetiously presents those ideas through the framework of degeneracy. And he's a neo-Nazi. It's real. He's it's not a joke. He's actually doing it. So I've seen that joke before, but I've seen it done for real. Whereas this is obviously an intentional, like, parody. Then what is the joke in this case? In the case of Jreg, the joke is it's the same joke. It's anti-centrism. It's never adopt a reasonable position, make jokes about the interplay ideologically between everyone outside the center. So, because he can't take a position that's adjacent to center, like, ideology, he has to, like, attack degeneracy by being the degenerate. He has to do the far right thing by doing the far left thing. That's the position that he has to hold. But the issue is, the far left making your own OnlyFans thing doesn't really challenge the previous 5 minutes of far right talking points at all. Even slightly. If this was done really, really well, I think there would be a way for Jreg to make this video while making fun of the people who actually believe that pornography is some sort of depraved, like, war against the West. I think that would be possible. I think that could be done. I don't know if he'd be able to put out videos as often as he currently does if he was going to take that high effort of a road, but that is something that could be done. But because he doesn't do that, the fact remains that he does cultivate a community with a lot of far-right people. He does prop up the dichotomous, the false dichotomy of the far right and the far left being equal and equivalent political positions that should be held and challenged against one another. It's treating ideologies like Pokemon battles, which is something that's always bothered me. The idea, like, they're all just, like, fun, like, crazy, wacky things you believe in. Haha, are you lib-right? Well, you wear a suit and you like the child sex trade. Are you lib-left and you're a furry and you go outside on your daily walk with a butt plug in? Are you auth-right? Haha, you've already dug out squares in your backyard for people to toil in gulags for when the revolution comes. Are you auth-right? That's it. Like, that's the whole, like, but it's all like Pokemon. Like, here's your traits and here's your traits. But the problem is the fundamental trivialization of the political relationships between the far left and the far right only serves the interests of the far right, because the far left doesn't need those trappings to be taken seriously. The far left has had ideologues running, like, expressing their ideas within broader society for decades now, because our ideas can be framed in the trapping of legitimate, like, political efforts to make society better. If you believe something like we need socialism, it's entirely possible for you to express that desire publicly and then push for it through incrementalist public policy. Whereas if you want another Holocaust, there is no way to do that so long as people understand what you truly believe. So you lie and you joke and you obfuscate, and the far right does everything in its power to convince people that it's not as much of a threat as it actually is. And then you get people like Jreg who make jokes that further their interests by making all the ideologies seem like weird little Pokemon battles between people with equally silly positions. And then, now that the far right has been trivialized to the extent that people don't think they're the threat that they are, they're able to get away with stuff nobody would have expected. Like, say, for example, literal white nationalists being brought in as Trump's personal advisors, like Steve Miller or Steve Bannon. Hey, that was a pretty wacky thing that happened that we just let slide, I guess. Or the normalization of far-right rhetoric, or Trump defending the Charlottesville protesters. That's what we get from stuff like this. These memes lead to that. Why do you think Poll initially started as this, like, hyper-facetious battleground between the far right and the far left, and then eventually it just became a neo-Nazi, like, website? Why do you think the exact same thing happened in The Donald, which was initially a satire of Trump supporters that then got invaded by Trump supporters and then got invaded by the alt-right, if there was any meaningful distinction between those groups? Or Gamers Rise Up, which constantly made fun of people who were right or incels, but didn't meaningfully moderate the way in which that discourse took place, so eventually it just became a far-right far-right subreddit. Or Political Compass memes, which is going to be the next subreddit to inevitably get banned, which initially started as a bunch of lighthearted jokes about different political ideologies, and is now basically just a place for people to recruit like neo-Nazis, which is why every single comment section goes the exact same way. So first, the post will be something like, haha, funny thing happened, the lib left wants to be nice to it, and the far right wants to genocide it, ha ha ha. And then the comment section will say, damn, does the far right really believe in blank? And then with 600 upvotes, the next response will say, no, we don't actually believe in this. We actually hold an incredibly principled set of positions concerning the right for Western Europeans to live in fairness amongst other races. The ultimate issue is that homogeneous societies are far more likely to succeed, and in the long run, we can derive a greater utilitarian value from the juxtaposition of different societies where we can each maximize our societies like possible civilizational strengths and weaknesses. With that being said, we should also recognize the numerous pieces of evidence suggesting the fact that race mixing not only leads to a wide variety of social ills, but additionally, and it's like this whole fucking row down, and then someone will respond being like, fuck you, Nazi scum, and it'll have -6. It'll have -6 upvotes. Satire is difficult. And as someone in chat just said, satire was done well in Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit, everyone see that one? Now that is a movie that knows how to have a Nazi protagonist set in Nazi Germany that just makes fun of Nazis. That's good satire. That's really good satire. Hey, Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert was a good satirist back when he ran the Colbert Report, not that shit-ass show he's doing now. Because Stephen Colbert would dress himself up like a conservative, and every night he'd go out there and he'd make fun of conservatives by hyperbolically adopting their points. Now, because I'm a left-leaning person, I don't accept the excuse that satire can be justified even if it leads to bad political ends. I don't believe that. So if Jreg wants to be somebody that I like, and I know he doesn't give a fuck, so I'm talking kind of from a position of entitlement here, but if he did want to present himself in a way that I would find agreeable, he would have to restructure his videos in such a way that the satire is consistently directed against the far right in a way that it is not done against the far left. Very big difference. You can make jokes about the lib left or the off left or whatever. That's totally possible, totally viable, totally justifiable. But if those jokes are coming at the expense of fostering a far-right community, I don't know. I can't do it, and I can't justify it. And that's the problem that I have with Jreg. He is a funny guy. I don't think there's anything individually wrong with him, but I believe he's committing the centrist fallacy of believing that there's a parallel between the far-right and far-left ideologies, and in doing so, he bolsters a far-right community because they benefit more from being trivialized. That's it. That was a little bit rambly, but